His Holiness Bhanu Swami was born in Canada, and he holds a BA in Oriental Fine Arts History from the University of British Columbia. Maharaj joined the Hare Krishna movement in India in 1970, and Maharaj was initiated in 1971 by Srila Prabhupada. He took his sannyasa vows in 1984. Bhanu Maharaj was personally instructed in the art of deity worship by Srila Prabhupada, and within ISKCON he has become an authority in the topic of deity worship. Maharaj has been a GBC member since 2003, and his zonal assignments cover South India, and he is also co-GBC for Japan. In fact, I was telling Maharaj yesterday that the first ever home program which we hosted when I and Yamuna Lila and Aditya were living in Japan was by Maharaj, and Maharaj had addressed all the Infosys colleagues there. So Maharaj is co-GBC for Japan. His history in management is as a regional secretary for South India since 1986. Having spent the last few decades in residence in Chennai, he has a clear understanding of the South India region. His GBC committee responsibilities include past chairmanship of the GBC and currently participation in the Parallel Lines of Authority Committee for the Strategic Planning Initiative. Maharaj is a scholar in Sanskrit and Bengali. Bhanu Maharaj has translated 15 significant works of the Gaudiya Vaishnava canon, with 6 more titles in progress. Many of these works are commentaries from primary members of the Gaudiya Sampradaya on the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Isopanishad and Srimad Bhagavatam. Thus, Maharaj's contribution is a lasting one. Bhanu Maharaj is a quiet achiever and has studied a variety of disciplines including martial arts, Reiki healing, Carnatic music, specifically Veena. He is a reputed astrologer also. His current efforts in spreading Krishna consciousness include completing the construction of a temple in Chennai and stabilizing the new temple in Tokyo. Chennai temple is already, oh sorry. So Chennai temple is already open, so there's a small correction from my end. So Bhanu Maharaj's depth of scholarship has enabled him to create presentations on topics like karma, reincarnation, yoga and Srimad Bhagavatam, and he presents these as he travels to select parts of the world, enlivening those he meets with heartfelt spiritual intellectualism. So Maharaj has kindly agreed to come to our program, and he had a host of seminars, and Maharaj has chosen to talk about beyond birth and death theme today for all of us. So let's loudly chant and welcome Maharaj 3 times by chanting Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Gopi Janavallabha Giridharadhari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Giridharadhari, Yashodanandana Brajajanandana, Yashodanandana Brajajanandana, Yamunatira Vanachari, Yamunatira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada, 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 Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Radha Gadadhar Krishna Gaur Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Govinda Shama Kunda Radha Padi Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadev Dham Ki Jai Ganga Jamuna Tulsi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Dhamma Gauri Vaishnava Vrindi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai Go Premanandi all glories to some of the devotees all glories to some of the devotees all glories to some of the devotees all glories to Sri Guru Sri Guru Lord Sri Guru. So this is called Beyond Birth and Death. It's about various things, including changing bodies and karma, reincarnation, etc. This topic is also discussed in Bhagavad Gita, etc. So that's good enough. Yeah. Okay. Go on. Ah, you're not. Doesn't work? Okay. So, we're talking about birth and death in one sense. So, here we see a little baby before he's born, actually. Is it before he's born? Or after he's born? What is it? How many months? Anybody know? Huh? How many months is that? 8 months? Nobody's baby doctor. Okay, it's probably in the womb, except I don't see there's no cord coming out, so I was wondering. So anyway, we're all familiar a little bit with birth because babies get born all the time, and in the modern world we've got doctors who have all sorts of science of delivering babies, etc., and all that. So in one sense, yes, we know about what is birth. In the physical sense, that a child is formed in the womb and the child comes out of the womb. Yeah, next. And we also know about death because we have the experience that everybody dies. So grandparents die, and parents die, other people die. And if you look at the newspaper every day, there's people dying due to accidents or fires or whatnot, or wars, etc. So death is also a common experience. But we see that both these events, of course, are marked. So birthdays are marked by, births marked by birthdays. It's a significant event. So that's probably universal around the world. They celebrate birthdays to some degree. Maybe devotees don't so much, but other people do. And death, of course, again, marks another event. And even atheists somehow have an event at death. They celebrate it. They have some sort of event, some ceremony there. And of course, in some cultures, the rituals are quite elaborate. So for instance, in India, there's 13 days of ceremony. Then after 1 month and 2 months, and so for a whole year, ceremonies go on. And then every year again, the ceremonies go on for infinity, so to speak. So the Shraddha rites and things like that are quite complex, and this all has to do with death. So there's a lot of ceremonies connected with death. So both are significant events. Now, science, of course, can also give us a definition of death in terms of breakdown of your metabolism in your heart, in your brain, in your cells, and whatever. And when things get bad enough, then you die. So it's basically decomposition of your material body. Degeneration of your material body produces death, that's what they say. And in between the birth and the death is what we call life. And this is defined in terms of a body, human body. Well, what is that body? Who are we actually? This is the big question. So we can analyze ourselves chemically. If we want to be chemists, we can take our body and start analyzing into all the different parts, yeah, in terms of chemicals and elements, yeah. Next. So you have some calcium in your body. Where's your calcium? Do you know, kids? Yeah, it's in the bones. Like, they're too young, I don't know about that. You got iron. If you don't have enough iron, then you get anemia or something like that. You got phosphorus. You got a lot of water. Maybe it's 80% water. It's huge amount of water in your cells anyway. And of course you got all these elements like nitrogen and carbon and so many other things, and you got all these other things like magnesium, selenium, and whatever in your body as well. Okay, and we can analyze you in terms of this next. And what is the value of all that? All those chemicals together is worth what? Nothing, hardly. What you can buy with that here? Maybe one little candy maybe you can buy with that. So this is your worth. That's the worth of your body. That's what you're worth in terms of chemicals. So that is not a very satisfying answer when we say, who are we? And you say, well, you're worth 200 rupees or 10 cents or something. It doesn't make sense. Yeah? So we're not satisfied with an answer like that in science. Right? So we can also analyze again in terms of biology. So that's another one. And so everyone, when they go to school, they learn about evolution theory, yeah? Theory, not fact, but theory only. So you evolve by chance, little molecules come together and they form amino acids in some primordial soup, and lightning strikes it, and they perform more complex things, and eventually after billions of years of chance movements within the primordial soup with billions and billions and billions of molecules and amino acids, you finally get a one-celled little creature with a little tail on it. Huh? And then over millions and millions of years, that gradually, by mutation of the cells and whatever, it evolves into a multi-cell creature or living entity, and then we get development of plants and animals and fish and slimy little things in the bottom of the ocean or whatever. And eventually we get warm-blooded animals coming on the land, and we get birds and reptiles and other things, snakes and whatever. And finally we get apes and things like this, and apparently we come out of that stock from somewhere in Africa, and then migrated over to India, and then migrated over to Australia and all like this. So this is the theory of evolution. So we are actually just a product of chance, ultimately. Yeah? There was a big primordial soup, and lightning struck it, and we got some amino acids, and they jiggled around for thousands and millions of years, and finally we got a little cell, and that's mutated over millions and millions of years, and finally we end up with human beings and so many other creatures in the material world. So that's the biological explanation of who we are, a product of chance only. Okay? So, in this scenario, actually, we're the highest living entity. We are the end product of evolution, so to speak. So it puts us in a very nice high position, so to speak. But we can actually ask, is that really so? Are we the highest entity at all? Because if we look at our activities, it does not look like we are so intelligent after all. Right? So why would we say this? So we can say this because if we examine the activities of the human being, they do not look very intelligent. So, next one. What do we do with all our activities? What do we do with all our intelligence? What do we do with all of our money? All the intelligence goes to make weapons, to defend ourselves, etc. So we'll find the countries spend a huge amount of the taxes they take from the people on defense systems, weapons, etc. And what do these weapons do? They kill other human beings. So we don't see animals using their intelligence in this way. They may have teeth and claws, and they can fight another animal or kill another animal. But they don't spend huge amounts of effort to sophisticate the killing mechanism and whatever, so they can kill more deer or more tigers or whatever. They don't do that. Whereas a human being, we see over human history, recorded history, we see that war after war after war taking place. and people killed other people. Huh? And of course in Europe we got all sorts of wars, like the 100-Year War, the 7-Year War, and the 20-Year War, and whatever in Europe. And finally we get World War I and World War II, in which 40 million people died. So then we have to ask the question, are we so intelligent after all? If we're the most advanced species, why do we like to kill each other? It doesn't make sense if we're so advanced. What is this mechanism by which we evolve so that we actually kill ourselves? Whereas even rats, we don't like rats, but rats don't kill themselves. Even cockroaches don't kill themselves like this. Dogs don't have world wars. Cats don't have world wars. But human beings have wars all the time like this, and they kill each other. So this is not a very good evolution, so to speak. Yeah? So we should not think be so proud that we're the end product of evolution or something which came about by chance. We're just a small particle here. In any case, this is not a very satisfying answer for us also in terms of who are we. We're just a byproduct of chance, ultimately. So what is the meaning of life? Nothing, ultimately. If we take biology to this core, there's no meaning. It's just chance. So there's no sense of morality, right, wrong, good, bad, anything, ultimately, in absolute sense. Nothing is there. Next. So, we can go to the most basic science of all, physics, which is actually considered the science in one sense. Mathematics is one, pure science, and also physics, so more than biology and other things, you know. So they're byproducts of physics, actually. So, if we go to physics, then what is the answer? Who are we? So they have a whole complex theory of the creation of the universe, etc. They tell us how big the universe is, like that. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, we don't know, but anyway, it's a huge, huge structure. It's got a lot of these things in it, which are galaxies, which are also very huge. So huge that we can't go across it, we can't even go one little step across it. We can't even get out of our own little solar system, what if we could go across one of our galaxies? What if we could go beyond the galaxies? Well, there are other billions of galaxies in the universe. So the universe is made up of countless number of these structures called galaxies. So it's a huge, huge, huge structure with a lot of space, empty, cold, freezing space. That's what the universe is according to modern science. And like we have what Stephen Hawking, who's one of the famous theoretical physics. He says the universe has 100 billion galaxies, each containing hundreds of millions of stars. And we are in our particular sun is like one little star among hundreds of millions of stars in one of these little galaxies here. Okay? Right. So, yeah, we'll go on to the next one. Next. Yeah. So the Earth itself is this one little planet, one little hunk of Earth, or rock, wandering around one star within this galaxy among hundreds of millions of other stars. And that's falling through space among other billions of galaxies or whatever. Huh? And how did it all come out again? There's a big bang and it just kind of formed gases and whatever, and they formed into these galaxies, and the galaxies began to solidify into solids, so then finally we get things like the stars and suns, and we get our Earth. So it's again chance. It all came by chance. Yeah, so there we are, our little Earth planet. It all formed by chance. And then once we get that, then the whole theory of the primordial soup and the chance creation of life, when lightning strikes it, and then the amino acids form by chance, and then they come together, make a little cell, one-celled creature that wiggles around in the water for a while, and then it mutates and develops into two-celled creatures, etc., more and more complex forms. So again, we're all back to chance again. Everything is by chance. So again, not very satisfying. Who are we? We just came about by chance. That's all. So, the questions remain. We have this universe, we have the galaxies, etc., and the same questions are there. What is the meaning of life? Okay? Press again. Yeah. How do we arrive? It's all chance. There's nothing, no meaning to all this. However, it's not a satisfying answer. So we still keep asking the same questions. So we see, for instance, in America, they've done studies like in the modern age, after everyone's been re-educated for the last 100 years with evolution theory and physics and Big Bang and everything. And then they ask people, are you religious? And they still say yes. Over half the people still can't give up the idea there must be some other meaning behind this. We're not satisfied with these answers that science gives. There has to be some other meaning to life. So we still ask the same questions. Why do we exist and who are we? Where do we come from? Where are we going? Etc. Prabhupada mentions this in the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita. These are the questions that a human being can ask that an animal cannot ask. And everybody will ask these questions. Every civilization asks these questions. Even the primitive civilizations ask these questions. And we find the Greeks are asking the same question, and the Egyptians are asking, the Chinese ask it. And of course we'll find the same questions in the Upanishads, in the Vedas. So, unfortunately, science doesn't give us an answer, and any type of material knowledge doesn't really give us an answer. We don't get an answer at all. This science, no matter how complex and how much way we can store data and calculate things or whatever, it doesn't give an answer to that one question. Okay? Oh, by computers, by the way, we have what is called artificial intelligence, the whole theory of artificial intelligence, and can a computer actually be like the brain? And I think the conclusion is no. It's quite different. It's quite different because there's somebody behind that computer all the time, and the computer's not conscious of anything. Whereas the individual person has some consciousness and awareness apart from the mechanism of the brain, etc. So therefore, the computer can never be equal to a person. So there's something completely different about persons. So, as I said, going through material knowledge, we can't really get an answer. And even if we think and think and think, and we use philosophy, which is basically observation and logic, and we try to come to some conclusion, we can make a theory, but it's very difficult to substantiate that. So, there is an alternative. The alternative is to take authority of Scripture. We choose to take the authority of the Vedas rather than the Bible or the Quran or some other religious literature. So that's our particular choice. Others can make another choice or whatever. In any case, if you take all of these different scriptures, they have some common theme, which we can see throughout them. So there's no real disagreement on some basic principles. But we'll take the Vedas as our source of knowledge. Veda itself means knowledge. So the knowledge which is presented here, of course, has material knowledge also, but the real knowledge is spiritual knowledge. This is the primary point of the goal of the Vedas, to give us some spiritual knowledge and answer these questions: who am I, and why do I live, why do I die, etc. Okay. So, the Vedas are difficult to understand, and they're very vast. Therefore, Vedavyas, who compiled the Vedas for the people of Kali Yuga, he also wrote other works. He wrote the Puranas, among which we have Srimad Bhagavatam, and he wrote the Mahabharata, in which we have the Bhagavad Gita. So, in the Bhagavad Gita, we have a summary of all that Vedic knowledge and Upanishadic knowledge in a more comprehensible form, something we can understand easily. So we have the basics of spiritual life and answers to the questions that we always ask. So this is one of the first statements of the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 2. After the introduction in chapter 1, we get chapter 2. And in chapter 2, right away, Krishna starts giving very, very different type of knowledge than we find in material books. So, he answers this question, who are you? So, he says, you're not the body at all. And science is studying the body and analyzing your chemicals or whatever and trying to figure out that, yeah, you came up by chance, a combination of, atoms and molecules and cells and stuff coming together like this. That's who you are. And Krishna Bhagavad says, no, that's not you at all. You're none of all this. That body is there, but you're not the body. So it's a completely different type of definition of who you are and where you're going, etc. So he says the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth, old age, and the soul similarly passes into another body at death. So the soul is you, and you are not the body. This is a very primary principle of Vedic knowledge. You're completely different from your body. So of course, that we have represented in the Bhagavad Gita, the many pictures like that. So we see that the soul is there, the body keeps changing, and then the body dies, and the soul is there, and the soul doesn't die, and the soul jumps into another body and continues again. And this goes on forever. The Atma, or the soul, is eternal. And so only the body is born and dies. So when we ask the question, what is birth, what is death? It's the body, it's not you. And science will never give you that answer. Birth and death. They'll just think that the creation of a body out of chemicals and the destruction of a body out of chemicals. Finished. And we say, no, you don't die. You're eternal. It's only the body that dies. So it's a completely different type of knowledge. Yeah. So Krishna says there, that which pervades the entire body you should know to be indestructible. That Atma, that soul, that conscious entity is without birth and without death. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. So this is fact number one, very important fact that Krishna presents in the Bhagavad Gita. Completely different from science. So we may ask, of course, now, how can we believe that? Because modern science is considered to be authority. And Scripture is not considered to be authority nowadays. Of course, in ancient times, it was the opposite. Scripture was the authority, and all thinking people would go to Scripture and take it as authority. So we have all these different types of philosophy, even atheists, like the Sankhya people, and Kapila, and the Nyayas, of Gautama, etc. Like very great philosophers and sages. They said, we accept the Vedas also as our authority. And based on that, they produce their philosophy. So we get the sub-darshans coming out of that. And they all accept the Vedas. Even if they have wrong conclusions, they accept the Vedas at least. So that was their basis of knowledge. But in the modern world, everyone thinks, oh no, Scripture is imaginary, or whatever, it can't be proved. So therefore, we have to take science as the only true knowledge. Which isn't so, really. Because I said, most of it is theory. A large section of it is theory only. And the theory of evolution is only a theory, and it's not proved, and they still call it a theory, they don't call it a fact. And we have all of Newton's theories and whatever, all these different theories. They're all theories. And they work for us to some extent, so therefore we accept them, but we can never really 100% demonstrate them. And sooner or later probably we'll find there is contradiction. And there is, which we find in quantum physics. All Newton's theories get turned upside down with quantum physics, and you can't really explain everything anymore with that. And then quantum physics, nobody can explain that either. So there's a lot of unanswered questions even in science. Even though we can do many things using these theories, quantum physics and Newton's physics, etc., still, there are contradictions there that have not been solved up until today. So Einstein had his theories and whatever. Still, he didn't solve the contradictions either. And they're still existing now. Nobody really knows why things are quantum like they're supposed to. Quantum physics, they don't want, it's a problem. It's a big problem. It's contrary. So anyway, so science everybody seems to accept because that's what everybody's taught in school and publicized in papers and whatever. But we shouldn't actually take that as absolute authority. So, because we're not satisfied with the answers that science gives, that's why we go to Scriptures. But still, because we're divided. We want to believe Scripture, but still we got the scientific prejudice of can we prove it all or whatever. So that still remains with it. So, fortunately, though you cannot prove the Atma by scientific instruments, you cannot observe it with a material eye because it's a spiritual particle. It has no material dimension, so to speak, so how you can measure it, whatever. Not possible. Still, indirectly, we can get some sort of proof. So that's what I'll present here. Some proofs from scientists who started out as atheists. So this is one, Ian Stevenson, psychiatrist in America, I think at the University of Virginia. He died about 10 years ago, I think. But he wrote a huge 1,000-page book. And in that book, he tells about his investigation of cases of children, usually, who seem to remember a previous life. So as a psychiatrist, he was a little curious. Why do children talk this little nonsense? And they say, you know, I was so-and-so in a previous life, and then this is the house I lived in. Why would they come up with such a funny little story, you know? And it's not just one child, but so many places, and it's all around the world it happens. And small children suddenly start talking about looks like a previous life. So he was interested in this phenomenon. Why does it happen? Are the parents somehow telling the children to do this or whatever, cheating somehow and making up stories or whatever? So it was just a matter of curiosity for him. What is this phenomenon? Is it true or false? And if it is true, why would children have these strange impressions in their mind? Where did they come from? So he investigated 2,600 cases of children in different parts of the world, many in India, but other places also, Indians and North American Indians, people in Europe, people in Turkey or wherever, all around the world. There's some 2,600 cases. And if possible, he personally interviewed and investigated these cases. And he used scientific method in gathering his data, interviewing the people, etc. And if there was doubtful things, he would discard those cases completely. So after doing all this, then he came to this realization, in all cases I think a rational person can believe in reincarnation, which means the soul goes from body to body on the basis of the evidence. That was his conclusion. Though I said he started out an atheist and he doesn't believe in, soul or God or anything, he said, I'm forced to accept the fact that we cannot explain why these children have these memories, because they're not false and the parents don't tell them. And they're quite accurate. And they give knowledge of places they cannot possibly know about, which are hundreds of miles away in many cases. And they give accurate information. So the only explanation is they were a different person in another life, and they got into this body in this lifetime. That's his explanation. I'm forced to accept that. Huh? So he says there may be two streams of evolution, the biological one where, we get evolution of species going up like that. But he says the other one is that the soul is also going from body to body, not just the body's evolving, so to speak, and transforming through mutation, but the soul is going from body to body and gathering new experiences in every life and either degrading or elevating himself in terms of consciousness. So that was his conclusion after all of this study. Next. And so in the Bhagavad Gita, actually, we have like that illustrated again, that actually we have these different species of life you see down here. We have a person dying and a person being born like that. And what's this thing here in the middle? The sign here. Infinity sign, yeah. So, it goes on and on and on and on. The Atma goes from body to body to body, body to body, body to body, no beginning, no end. It keeps going on like this. And it may be animal plants, like animal things like this, and finally becomes a human being, whatever like that. So, now, in his studies, then he also found a very strange phenomenon, which actually proves this statement in the Bhagavad Gita. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his present body in his next life, he will attain that state without fail. Only think of something, very strongly, and then you can become that animal or whatever. So, case of Bharat Maharaj. He thought he got attached to a baby deer, and when he was dying, he was thinking of that deer. Next lifetime, he became a deer, because his mind had an image of a deer. The mental image produced a physical body of a deer, which sounds a little bit strange to us. How can the mental image produce a physical thing, which is not even genetically related? So, next. So, what he found in these cases of children, when he began interviewing these children in previous lifetimes, many had birthmarks, scars, or deformed bodies. And those reflected injuries from the previous lifetime, especially when they died. For instance, this is a boy here. You can't see it too well. You see little spots in the middle of his chest there, little white spots. So he was born with these strange little spots on his chest. He's from India, actually. And when he was about 4 years old, then he began to talk to his parents. They actually, see, I'm from this village, which was 100 miles away. And he started naming his father and his mother and his relatives and the name of his village. And he got married, he gave the name of his wife, he gave the name of his children, etc. And all these details. And then he said that at a certain point, somebody shot him in the chest with a shotgun. So a shotgun is a gun that's got little pellets in it, many pellets, not just one bullet, but many pellets. So, and it went into his chest and he died. So they investigated that case, and then they found all the names of his relatives are true, his mother and father and his wife and his children, etc. And even the police report was there of his death. And this is the autopsy report drawn by the policeman with the bullet hole wounds. There, one big one in the middle and the little ones around like that. And if you actually compare that to his present body, you'll see that the same pattern is there. One big spot in the middle and the little ones around it. So, therefore, the impression of that previous body left an imprint in his next body. How did it carry over? Not genetically, because they're not even related to each other. So it's no hereditary factor there at all. It has to be carried over by that mental image of his death with that body. And that got impressed into the next body. Next. So not one case, but many cases. Here's the case of a boy, I think it is. He was born with no fingers. And the fingers are just not there somehow or other. Just partially formed. So this child began remembering his previous life where he was working or playing actually with a farm instrument, also in India, and got his fingers cut off and they bled to death. And so he's born with no fingers. Another case of a girl. She was run over by a train and her leg was severed just above the knee and she died. Next lifetime she's born, no leg. Like that. Here's a case of a boy from Turkey. See, he hasn't got an ear actually, his ear's not there. I don't know, there's a hole even. I don't know. Anyway, he remembers previous lifetime in which he was shot in the head by a gun. Half his head was blown off here and his ear was blown off. So no ear, and there's a big mark on his head actually here in this lifetime also. So the trauma of death actually, of a previous death, leaves an imprint on the next body. So that's a very interesting case, somewhat confirming this idea that your mental state when you die actually helps mold your next body. Next. So, now here's another case of which confirms or helps us to confirm the idea that we're not the body, we're something else. That's the near-death experience. This is a phenomenon that happens when people almost die, and their brain stops and the heart stops for some period of time. It could be a few minutes, it could be a few hours, in some cases a few days even. And then suddenly they come back to life again, which is impossible in one sense because their brain should be completely finished by then, you know, whatever. Like if people have strokes usually, you know, they end up with damaged brains. Sometimes people come back and they're completely normal after, you know, having no brainwave activity, no heart activity for hours or whatever, and they come back to life again suddenly. So that itself is unexplainable. But the other thing is that they have experiences when their brain isn't operating. And they have experiences that can be confirmed. In other words, they remember things that happened in the operation table after they died, so that they remember what the doctor said, what the nurse said, and they can describe what happened in the operation table, and the doctor's doing different things with different machines. How is it possible when they haven't got a brain? It's not operating anymore. And how they can see it, because they don't have eyes. They're under, they're covered up this way and that way. So that's the investigation. So several doctors began to investigate this. And then they found that different people from different walks of life, different countries, different religions, etc., when they had this experience, they had common experiences, which shouldn't be there because why would they have all the same experience? But one of the common experiences is they separate from their body. They can see themselves leaving their body, and they can observe their body lying down there, and they're somewhere else high above there. They can look at their body, and they can see all the people running around and doing things with it. Yeah? So that's one experience. How they can do that, how can they observe, because their eyes are on the body and it's dead. And another experience is that they go through a tunnel, a big long tunnel. They start going, ooh, traveling through a big tunnel. Like the kids have these slides and they have water. It's like that. You go through a big tunnel, come out the other end. And then at the end there's a big light. Next. And they go to get to the end of the tunnel and the light, and they walk through that little door or whatever, entrance, and then they're in another world. It's actually usually a peaceful world full of light. And then maybe palaces there and trees and whatever like that, but it's very, very beautiful and very peaceful, and they feel very calm. So they don't feel any pain, even though the body is under, accidents or heart failure or whatever like that, and they're all cut open and whatever. Still, no, they don't feel anything. They feel very, very peaceful, very calm. And they often meet other people there. They can talk to them even. Dead relatives, for instance, mothers, fathers, etc., or maybe a dead son or something, or grandfather, whatever. Or they may meet a spiritual being like an angel or Buddha or Krishna or whoever, like that. Sometimes they meet, or Yamaraj, even whoever. Different figures there. But it's always very peaceful, and they can communicate using their mind. Thoughts. They can communicate thoughts back and forth. They don't have to speak even. And they get a life review. That is, from their very birth, they can see all the activities of the experiences of their life all the way to the time they die. Oh, very, very quick review of everything. These are common experiences that people have when they have this near-death experience. So the doctors were wondering, why do they all have the same experiences like that? Is some mechanism in the brain or whatever, or is the anesthesia, etc.? So the doctors investigated this, and one of the early investigators was Dr. Kenneth Ring. And his conclusion was that it looks like we're not the body. And we don't die, actually. We're something separate from the body. So he says it's not an imaginary type of thing due to anesthetics or oxygen deprivation or something like that. Because then it would be very haphazard what people remember, etc. They wouldn't have the same type of experiences. And the other factor is that this experience is very positive for all the people that have it. And when they recover, they change their life. Their character changes. If they were drinkers and debauchees and whatever, they rectify themselves and they become good people and they try to help other people and they understand there's another meaning to life than just living, material life. So if it's only, some mechanism due to lack of oxygen or the anesthesia or the drugs, that wouldn't happen. Never happens. So therefore, the doctors conclude that this is some sort of proof that we're not the body. Next. Raymond Moody, he's another person. He wrote a book called Life After Life in the 1960s or something. So he also says the same thing. From my near-death research and my personal experience of death is my opinion is simply a transition into another form of reality, another kind of reality. So he also says that we don't actually die. We're something else separate from the body. So, in the Bhagavad Gita, we got some sort of mechanism to explain these experiences, how you can have observation when you don't have any eyes, because your eyes are in your brain and connected and they're all not operating. So in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, there Krishna explains that when you leave the body, you take your senses with you, along with the subtle body. So the Atma is there, the gross body is there, but you also have a subtle body, and it has senses on it also, which can perceive and hear and see, etc. Yeah. So, we have that body, and when you have your near-death experience, that body's not operating anymore, that brain is not operating, those eyes are not operating. But the other body is your subtle body. That also has senses on it. So that can continue operating and separate somewhat from this body so it can observe this body. And of course, this body is given life by the Atma. So therefore we have three levels here. We have the gross level, we have the subtle material level, and we have the spiritual level, the soul. These three things are all combined in the material body. This is how the Bhagavad Gita explains. Okay? So, these two, this is not destroyed when you die. This sticks with the soul, and that goes to the next body. This is what you leave behind only. This is what we call death. Subtle body does not die. It goes with the Atma. Okay? Next. So, that subtle body is quite complex, just as this material body is complex, and doctors can't even explain it fully. They don't know how things work. Many things work in this body. They're very, very mysterious how things work. Once even a cell, how it works, they can't really explain it. So, the subtle body also is quite complex. Huh? And it's more difficult to study because we can't even see it, But it does have its own organs. It has chakras in it, energy centers like this, and it has various layers to it, up to 9 different layers, which all have different functions, from lower functions to higher functions. So, in that subtle body, we also have a storage space. And it stores all your impressions and desires from each lifetime, and those get piled on one after the other. So you've got previous lifetime's experience, especially the strong experiences, which are usually the frightening ones, the bad ones, etc. They will leave an impression in there and continue life after life after life after life with you. Okay? And so those are held in the subtle body, which goes with the soul into another body. Okay? Then we have the physical features, as I said, the injured, the hand cut off or something. So in the subtle body, that message is held. I don't have an arm, I don't have a leg. And that goes into the next body and helps form the next body so that you're deprived of certain limbs. There's another thing. The other thing is karma. Karma also is stored in this subtle body and goes with you life after life after life. Okay. So like that, we have the body here and we have the subtle body, and when you leave your body, you can carry that experience. If you're afraid of water, maybe you drown in one lifetime, it is held in your subtle body, and it's going to pick up into your next lifetime again, in spite of the fact that this lifetime you don't know anything about water. Next. So this may explain certain phobias or whatever the people have, irrational phobias that people have in this lifetime. Somehow they just can't stand certain things, and they never had any experience in this lifetime, but it goes from previous lifetime or previous lifetime. Okay, next. And then we have physical features carrying over. As I said, the wound and the shotgun wound here that is held in the subtle body, then it imprints on the gross body in the next lifetime. That can happen also. Okay. So here's an interesting case of physical features getting carried over. This is a true story, actually. This is a fireman, Jeffrey Pete, American. He's in the New York Fire Department. He's a fireman. And the picture is taken in 1995. He had some strange incident in his life where he went to some site where they had a civil war in America. I think it was in the 100 years previously. They had a civil war between the north and southern states or whatever. So he went to that site where they had a battle, and he fainted suddenly. He couldn't understand why, and then he woke up. And then he bought a book that gave the history of the battle there. He didn't read it, he took it home. A year later, he opened the book, and he saw this picture here of one of the generals. And then he said, well, that looks like me. But it's 100 years apart, over 100 years difference there. So he became curious, so how can that person be same face as me? And he began reading up about this general, etc. And then he saw the events of his life, how they were very similar to the events of that person's life. And then one time when the general had to go to the hospital, he got a wound. He had to go to the hospital, very excruciating pain in his stomach, but nobody could figure out what it was. And he went to the hospital, examined, nothing was there. But it was so excruciating, he had to go to the hospital. So the pattern of life was very, very similar. He looked at his qualities, and his qualities are very similar. His handwriting, same handwriting, like this. So he was wonderstruck about it, how we can have this equivalence like this. Next. And he has a friend in the fire department, Zaleta. That's 1997. And this is a photograph of a general who was a friend of the other general 100 years previously, 1860. Also same. So somehow the two of them ended up again together as firemen. They were generals before in the Civil War together. Now they were two firemen together in the New York City Fire Department. And they both had the same faces also. So that's a case where the whole physical impression somehow carried over along with the Atman, and again, after 100 years, that again appeared. So in this particular case, we got the physical appearance is similar, the personality traits are similar, writing style was similar, karmic group, they came together as a group, and he began to have past life memories of that previous lifetime also. So many things coincided with that previous person. So 100 years apart somehow out of that thing surfaced and produced this different face there with all the memories. Okay, so in the subtle body we have the transfer of karma. Karma means in one lifetime you may do a violent activity and cause pain to somebody. That impression is stored, and then you get that violent, painful experience on yourself in another lifetime. It's carried in the subtle body. Yeah. So in one lifetime you hit somebody and cause them pain, and in one lifetime then you're going to get some pain on yourself. That's the idea. How does it work? It's carried through the subtle body. The karma is held in the subtle body, and then inevitably you can't escape it. You can't erase it. You can't play with your subtle body and erase the information. It's stuck there, and there's no delete on it. And it sticks with you, and it comes out when it's right to come out. This is a Sanskrit up here. That's from Manu Samhita. This gives the definition of meat, mamsa. Mamsa is made out of two syllables, mam and sa, meaning meat and he. The animal whose flesh I eat now will eat me. He will eat me in the future. I eat him, he eats me. So mamsa, that is the meaning of mamsa according to Manu Samhita. So this explains very nicely the law of karma. I afflict somebody, I will get equal affliction back on me in the future. So if we realize that we're not the body, that we're the soul, we can become very peaceful. And if we get fixed in that, then we get liberation from the cycle of birth and death. This is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Okay? Next. Unfortunately, it is very difficult for us to get fixed in the idea, I am Atma, I am not the body. Our senses, mind, intelligence, egos push us to forget that. And make us become identified with the material body and objects of this world. In the Bhagavad Gita we have this example also Upanishads, that the senses are like horses, and the horses are pulling the chariot of the body with the Atma in it, and the intelligence there is the driver, and the reins are the mind, etc. And the horses are wild and they're just taking it, the person all over the place, and the Atma is kind of sitting helpless in the chariot. So that's what happens. We get carried away in the material world and the Atma is lost. So this is what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. For the person who meditates on sense objects, attachment arises. From attachment arises desire. From desire arises anger if we don't get our desires fulfilled. Next. From anger arises bewilderment. From bewilderment comes loss of memory. So loss of memory means we do not understand what is right and wrong, even though before we knew this is good, this is bad, this is sinful, this is not sinful, etc. We completely forget about that. And then, loss of memory comes loss of intelligence, and with our loss of intelligence, then we do some bad activity, sinful activity, violent activity, and this way we destroy ourselves. That means, due to karma, we degrade ourselves. Yeah. So basically this is what happens. You have your mind, all under ignorance. Our mind is operating, gets filled with desires for objects of this world. Then we do actions to get it. Then we either get a good or bad result from that. That goes back in our mind again. Then we get another desire, and we do another action like this. So all day long, all life long, we're going through this cycle in our mind of developing new desires and getting things through the action, and then getting the result, and then getting some more desires. Cycle. Yeah. So we have the mind, it produces desires and greed and anger and action and impressions and mind like this. So this is a continual cycle that goes on. Not just in this lifetime, but in every lifetime. So this pushes us into another body. We get another birth, have another life. In that life, we go through the same cycle of desires and actions, etc., like that. Then we die, and we get pushed into another body, another body, another body. So it's this life and death, life and death, life and death, cycle after cycle after cycle. So this is the Buddhist diagram of the wheel of karma. It's a wheel because there's no beginning and no end. You just keep taking body after body after body. There are 6 sections to the wheel. There's heavenly existence if you do nice sattvic activities. There is human thing if you do rajasic activities. And there's hellish existence if you do tamasic activities. And there's a few ghosts in there. I think there's animals in there also. So you have 6 different divisions to show that you can go through various species of life due to your actions and getting your karma. Like that. You can be human, you can go to heaven, you can be a demon, an animal, you can go to hell, you can go to ghosts or whatever. Of course, there's more things than that, but this is just for the diagrams. And over this we have time and karma, forcing everybody to get another body, another body, another body. In the middle, there's actually, next, I wonder what it's there or not. Yeah. In the middle of that diagram there were 3 animals. There was a pig, a snake, and a chicken. So that's lust, anger, and greed. So through lust, anger, and greed we do our actions. Through the actions we do it, and we get some karma. Through the karma we get another body. So this pushes us into body. So it is difficult to get out of this cycle. It is difficult to change your karma. But it is also possible to change if we have proper knowledge. So as a human being, if we are fortunate enough to get knowledge from the Vedas, then we can actually begin to change that karma. Okay. So we can change one karma into another. In other words, if you do sattvic actions, then you can get nice heavenly delights. If you do rajasic actions, then you are human and demon worlds, rakshasas, etc. If you do tamasic actions, it's the ghost, animal, and hellish things. So choose your actions, you get your results. Yeah? So though we may be born in a certain guna and have a certain type of body as a human being, we can always choose these actions. Even if we're born in a tamasic state, we can choose to refuse that and to do sattvic actions. Of course, it's difficult, but we can, if we have proper association, knowledge, then we can actually transform ourselves by actions. Yeah? So this is one way in which we can do it. We can choose sattvic actions with the others, and therefore we can begin to change the karma. So in the Vedic literature, there are different methods for helping us create this change. To take us from tamagun to sattvagun, we have the varnashram system in karma yoga. So we have the different varnas there, the sudras in tamagun, and then the vaishyas in tama rajagun, the kshatriyas and raja sattvagun, and the brahmins in sattvagun. So the idea is to raise the atma through these different varnas up until the top when he's sattva. When he's sattvic, then he can get Vedic knowledge properly, and he can understand jnana and understand I'm not the body. Yeah? So that's one of the qualities of sattva, knowledge. You can understand I'm not the body, I'm the atma. So this is the system of karma yoga, control the senses. Once you're in sattva gun, then you are qualified for jnana yoga. So you can study the scriptures, the Upanishads, Vedanta Sutra, and you can understand I'm not the body, I'm spiritual. And if you really want to try to understand Atma and stop your karma, then you can do Astanga Yoga. The whole purpose of yoga is to stop all these functions, desire, hatred, greed, ego, etc. All the mental functions, stop. And then you realize Atma. You destroy your subtle body, you destroy your gross body, and you get liberation. So, the last process is Bhakti Yoga. So, this is the most practical process for getting rid of birth and death, going beyond birth and death. The process is a little different. In Jnana and Yoga, the process is to stop the mind, stop the desires, stop the activities, etc. The process of bhakti is to engage the mind, engage the intelligence, engage the body, engage the senses. So you do different activities. How it becomes effective is because it's directed towards the Supreme Lord. It's not for ourselves. So therefore we don't get karma for it. So here's a diagram of the gunas. If you're in Tamagun, then you're doing Sakama Karma Yoga, Rajagun, you can get up to Nishkama Karma Yoga and get into Sattvagun a little bit, then you can do Jnana Yoga and Astanga Yoga. But they're all in the gunas, these yogas. The only yoga beyond the gunas is Bhakti Yoga. So if we actually want to get free from the material world completely, get rid of all the karma, etc., we have to do Bhakti Yoga. So as I said, generally the senses, mind, intelligence are dragging us into ignorance and we don't recognize we're the soul or anything. So bhakti is the opposite. We engage the senses, intelligence, etc. in worshipping Krishna. And along with that, we engage the soul favorably. So this is how bhakti works. Favorable attitude, faith in the Atma, and then we engage everything for Krishna. In this way, we spiritualize the body full of all sorts of negative energy. We can drive all these negative thoughts and everything, karma, etc. away from the body. So what are the actions? We have shravana, process of hearing. Instead of hearing material things, we hear about the pastimes of Krishna. And seeing, we see the beautiful form of the Lord in the temple. And kirtan, we glorify the Lord by chanting His names. We use the nose to smell the incense and flowers offered to the Lord. We use the tongue to taste the prasadam offered to the Lord. We can use the whole body to dance for the Lord. We can use the mind to meditate on the Lord. That's what japa is, to use the mind. So of all these different methods, the most powerful method is Nam Sankirtan, chanting the name of the Lord. This is called the Yuga Dharma, the process for Kali Yuga, most effective process for the population at large. So of course this is quoted from Naradiya Purana that in this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is chanting the holy name of the Lord. There's no other way. There's no other way. There's no other way. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has presented this as the Yuga Dharma for us all. So we engage our tongue, we engage our mind, we engage our ear in the name of the Lord, and this is how we can get rid of all the karmas and all the desires and the ego, etc. Get rid of the subtle body and get eternal bliss in the spiritual world. So, at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna emphasizes again that Bhakti Yoga is the process for us to follow. And therefore he says, abandon all varieties of religion, just surrender unto me. That means bhakti. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions, do not fear. Okay, so this is what Krishna says to Arjuna, and it is also meant for us. It's meant for everyone. We should not worry. Krishna says, do not fear. I will deliver you. I will save you from all sinful reactions. He also guarantees that there will be eternal prosperity, victory, increasing wealth and righteousness for anyone who agrees to follow the path of Arjuna in devotional service. Okay. Hare Krishna. Any question? Question, what happens to the soul in between death and taking another birth? If you're fortunate, you can go real quick. If you're unfortunate, then you get stuck in the middle somewhere. And you may have to go to hellish places and go through different hells and stuff like this. So that's why they do the Shraddha ceremonies, to get rid of all of that. And the Shraddha ceremonies help you get rid of your hellish punishments so you can get another body quickly. What is the origin of Krishna? There's no origin of Krishna. There's no birth for Krishna. There's no birth for the Atma. Like we have no origin as such. And what is the purpose of Krishna's existence? Bliss. The experience of bliss. This is the purpose of Krishna. Like we're explaining the causing manifestation existence from the Vedic viewpoint, but why? I mean, why is it like this? Even though my life now has a purpose, but I'm feeling so that everything is still enforced upon me, why am I not able to accept it? Why? Because of our karma. We don't like our karma, but we create our karma. We produce our situation. We produce our material body at this moment. And of course, by our actions in this lifetime, we create our future. So we have to take responsibility for our actions. So in the material world, we have two choices, papa and punya. We can do sinful actions, we do punyas. It's better to do punyas, then you get happy life. If you do papas, then you get suffering. But that's not a real solution, because you still get birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. So the real choice is not just papa and punya. The real choice is to take bhakti over everything else. And if we take bhakti, then we solve this problem of birth and death completely, and we get absolute bliss in the spiritual world. So that's the real solution. And everything else we will be stuck in this world of karma. How intelligence pushes us towards ignorance. What you think? Oh, well, what happens is in this thing, mind has some, and your senses, whatever, look out in the material world, and then you see things or sense things, and you develop desires, you develop attachments, and if you don't get your desires fulfilled, maybe you get anger, and if you get anger, then you become bewildered, and then you lose your intelligence. So, and then because of the loss of intelligence, you fall into great ignorance, and you do some sinful activities. So this is how ignorance arises. So intelligence is still there, but it is used for the wrong purposes in pursuit of our ignorant goals. So that's not the proper use of intelligence. Krishna Bhagavad Gita says the mind is your friend and the mind is your enemy. So the mind, along with the intelligence, can be useful for spiritual progress, and they can also be used for the worst things, so you degrade yourself. So we have to be very careful how we use our intelligence and how we use our mind in this material world, and we fix it on the proper goals. I understand I have some independence, but still I feel I have no choice, meaning choice about my existence, be it in the material world or spiritual world. How do we understand this? Well, yes, choice is always there for the human being, not for the animals. They don't have enough intelligence to perceive different things and whatever, judge standards or whatever. So our real choice, we have several choices. One is between sin and no sin, the papa and punya aspect. And to help us, we have scripture to tell us this is sinful, this is not sinful, this is good, this is bad, etc. And of course, the dull reflection of that is material laws in the material world. So you go to prison if you do that activity, and you stay out of prison if you do this activity type of thing, you know? And you get rewards for certain things, and you get punishments for certain things. That's a reflection of scripture, a dull reflection. Doesn't cover everything. So, that's one choice. But I said the other choice is the choice between accepting the Supreme Lord or not accepting the Supreme Lord. That's the real choice we have to make. Without accepting the Supreme Lord, you can still do punya over papa or whatever, whatever. But the real choice is to choose Supreme Lord. So that choice is there in any condition. We can be born in a low condition, a suffering condition, ignorant condition, or whatever. But we're never restricted from choosing, because choosing does not require money. Choosing does not require a particular situation. You can choose to accept the Lord in any case, if you're in jail, or if you're on a boat, or if you're on land, or if you're in the air, whatever. It doesn't matter. No, where you exist in the material world, you can always accept the Supreme Lord. So that's the freedom of choice. That's the real freedom. Sometimes mind suddenly changes. Is that because of past karma? Well, the mind, the nature of the mind is to keep changing. It likes to, make decisions or accept and reject, basically. I like this, I don't like this. I like this, I don't like this. And then we got senses coming in with their input, and then it changes a little bit and says, no, I like this instead, or I don't like this. So because we're constantly observing things and getting sense input into us, the mind keeps changing, slightly modifying its desires. And it's very difficult to stop the mind. And that's why it's considered very dangerous if you follow your mind and just do whatever your mind says, then you end up in a lot of problems. So that's why you have to control the mind. And how do we control the mind? Mantra. Mantra is a means of delivering the mind from ignorance. How to improve our attentive chanting? Well, this is our choice. First, we choose to chant the Maha Mantra. Second, when we choose it, we choose to be determined or not determined. In other words, we have to have a little bit of willpower to judge our own quality of our chanting, etc. So that requires our own introspection, our own determination, etc. Nobody can do that for us, actually. So that's our choice. Our choice, of course, can be influenced by others. That, in other words, it become inspired by other people who also attentively chant and are enthusiastic to chant. One of the main impetuses probably is to develop a taste. If we get some good result from chanting, then we're more inspired to do it. So if we can get some little taste and some experience of peace, an experience of joy from the process of chanting, and then we can be attentive. If someone dies in coma, what would be the next life of that person? Well, it would depend. If you're a devotee, it doesn't matter. You're blessed by Krishna anyway. But if you're not a devotee, it could be very serious effects, because you could end up in a coma state without getting another body. In other words, you end up in a subtle body in a coma also, and then you sit there for a long period of time, not as a ghost, not as anything, just kind of like a sleep state in your subtle body. And it's very difficult to get out of that state again. So it's not a very fortunate state. So that is why it's always recommended. The fortunate state is you die conscious, remembering the Lord. That's the best state. And all the other states where you die when you're sleeping, or you die when you're unconscious, is not so good, because there's no control at all. What do death ceremonies mean is necessary for these type of ceremonies. Now, for the devotee, not really, because by the chanting of the holy name, actually, we erase all these karmas, and Yamaraj can't touch you, etc. So it doesn't matter. But the ceremony, Shraddha ceremonies are there in case the person has committed sinful activities for which he has to suffer from Yamaraj. The Shraddha ceremonies negate that, so he doesn't have to suffer, or at least lessens the suffering, and then he can get back to a human life very quickly. If we chant in this lifetime, does it mean we'll be free from all previous karmas at the time of... If we chant, even once chant the name accidentally, but not even as a devotee, as Ajamil did, you can get free from all your karmas. So getting rid of karma is not the biggest thing. But developing devotion for the Lord, that's more important for us. If we do offenses, then the destruction of karma is slower. If we have offenses. Luckily, Ajamil didn't have any offenses, so that's why all of his karmas get destroyed, and Yamaraj couldn't touch him. Okay.
You mentioned the ego and the false ego. So the subtle body, there is a difference between ego and false ego. Ego is by which we can identify. So we falsely identify the body. Is that the reason why it's called false ego?
Yeah. Ahankara. But that the Atma itself has a sense of ego also, a sense of I. It is inherent in the Atma itself. It has this identity. So that's also a type of ahankara, but it's not a false ego. So that's the actual identity. I am conscious of this or that. That I-ness is an ego itself. But that's the real ego.
That's the part which goes along with the subtle body, along with the soul.
But the ahankara also goes.
So is it a false ego which goes, or is it
both,
ego that
both go. There's an ego in the Atma, and there's an ego in the false ego in the subtle body.
So So the false ego is with the subtle body.
Yeah.
How does that affect the animals? Because animals, they...
Yeah, they identify with the bodies also, not with the soul.
Because you said it doesn't affect them.
No, but they don't have the effects of karma because their intelligence is not a great state. They're not aware of good and bad and things like that. They have a sense of I, but it's really attached to their body. You know, they can't think, they can't understand, oh, I'm not the body, I'm the spirit soul. They can't do that.
So they don't carry the impressions.
No, impressions will carry, definitely, that will all happen.
The animal
Yeah,
body.
yeah. But they don't have a developed consciousness or intelligence, etc. So.
Because we understand from Bharat past tense that even when he was in that body,
So that was a special case. Now he was a blessing of the Lord that he could remember
he
everything.
could remember everything.
Yeah, that was the Lord's special blessing. Otherwise you can't.
Maharaj, you deal with astrology. So how do you reconcile that astrology?
The astrology is simply an interpretation of your karmas.
How a devotee should consider that?
Well,
faith
yeah.
he should put in.
Yeah, so your karmas are destroyed by bhakti, or chanting the holy name. But as I said again, if you do offenses, then that lessens. So you're still going to have some pattern of karma there anyway, if you do offenses, whatever. And the Lord keeps a pattern there anyway, even for the highest devotees in prema who have a material body. They still go through sickness or whatever like that, and they have a death also. So some aspects of karma are kept there even for the highest devotees. So it's not completely removed even for the devotees.
So how much priority a devotee should keep?
Well, it depends on their mentality, I suppose.
Whereas because of karma, someone goes to the hellish or heavenly planet. And then even if he's spending his time in the hellish or a heavenly planet, why does he take the animal body or whatever it is? Because he spent his karma in their planet, and how does it?
Oh, well, that will depend. He doesn't necessarily, he becomes an animal. He could become an animal after going to the hellish planet because he has to get some more suffering as an animal also. It may not exhaust all of his karmas. In other words, we have karmas piled up from previous lifetimes, and they're not all exhausted by one lifetime or one hellish existence or one heavenly existence. We've still got other piles dealing there.
So that
to
means
push us on into other bodies.
That means he's not spending whole karma.
No,
in
you
the
never
hellish-
expend all your karmas. You got what are called upper karmas. So right now we have a whole pile of karmas from previous lifetimes waiting for our next lifetime, our next life, and our next life to push us there. Even if we don't do any activities in this lifetime, we still have to get a body because those upper karmas are still going to manifest in future lifetimes.